Good afternoon, students. Now here, these are the kidneys. As you can see, the right and the left kidney. These are also another pair, right and left kidney, but here we are having inferior vena cava and aorta and the renal vessels. Now, each kidney is retroperitoneal and it is located in the posterior abdominal wall. Similarly, each kidney is starting from the level of T12 to L3. Then we have the kidneys having upper and lower pole, outer border, inner border, and anterior surface and posterior surface. Now, axis of the kidneys. The axis of the kidneys longitudinally will be downwards and laterally. The axis of each kidney will be downwards and laterally. Similarly, upper pole, the upper pole of both the kidneys will be situated 2.5 centimeter away from the midline. Lower pole of both the kidneys will be situated around, it will be situated around 7.5 centimeter away from the midline. And that is how the axis of the kidneys will be downwards and laterally. Now we come to the hilum. This structure here, this is the hilum, medial part, where several structures are seen which are entering and leaving the kidney. So in both the kidneys, the hilum will cross at the level of L1. So therefore, at the level of L1, transpyloric plane, lower border of L1, it will pass through the upper part of the hilum of the right kidney and lower part of the hilum of the left kidney. Because the right kidney will be slightly lower than the left kidney. Although their vertebral levels will be same, starting from T12 to L3. And hilums of both the kidneys will be at L1. Left kidney will be slightly narrower, longer, and will be towards the median plane than the right kidney. So these are the gross anatomical differences between the right and the left kidney. Now we come to site determination. In exam, you'll be asked to identify this organ and you'll be asked to identify which side it belongs to. So therefore, both the kidneys will be kept, right, left, and even the third specimen which we have here, this will also be kept, where this specimen is joined, having inferior vena cava, abdominal aorta, and the renal vessels. So in case you are asked with this individual kidneys, first you identify it is a kidney. Next, what you have to identify, you have to look at the hilum. Once you look at the hilum, always note down, anterior to posterior, the first structure will be renal vein. See how beautiful this renal vein is. Then, behind the renal vein, this is the thick cross-section of renal artery. And behind the renal artery, you can see here how wonderfully this is the renal pelvis, which will pass down as ureter. So in this hilum, once again I'll repeat, anterior to posterior, renal veins, renal arteries, and renal pelvis, which will continue as ureter. And the direction of ureter will be down. So therefore, this kidney which I'm holding is of which side? Right side. And therefore, in anatomical position, it will be in this way. In this direction, this will be the anatomical position of the right kidney. Hilum medially. Similarly, I'll show you the left kidney. If I show you the left kidney here, once again, anterior to posterior, hilum. This is the renal vein. Behind that is the artery, renal artery. How beautiful these structures are, see. And posteriorly, this is the renal pelvis. You are able to see this pelvis. The most posterior structure, which will continue down as ureter. Therefore, this kidney which I will hold now in anatomical position will be left kidney. So based on the identification of structures on the hilum, you have to identify whether it is left or right kidney. Once this process is done, there are so many structures which we need to understand in the relations of the kidney. So therefore now, each kidney, right and left kidney, will be covered by various capsules, fascia. The first, from inside to outside, the first will be fibrous capsule. Fibrous capsule is the true capsule which will cover the kidney, both right and left. Outer to or external to fibrous capsule will be perinephric fat. External to that will be renal fascia, which is called the false capsule. And that renal fascia is also called fascia of Gerota. Fascia of Gerota. And external to that will be the paranephric fat. Then we come to the size. What are the measurements of the kidney? Both the kidneys, they are 11 centimeter in length by 6 centimeter in breadth by 3 centimeters in thickness. And of course, we know the levels T12 to L3. Then we come to the relations. Very important. These relations are asked in Viva. What are the relations of the kidneys? In order to understand the relations, we will take the help of this set. So this is a beautiful set. The speciality of this set is we have dissected out the entire pair, right and left kidney, with intact inferior vena cava. This is the intact inferior vena cava and the aorta. Inferior vena cava aorta, including renal vessels, both the sides. And the direction, see this, the ureters which are going down. This is an excellent specimen which we have dissected it out together with the renal vessels and the vena cava and aorta. Now, relations, always note down. In the relations, first we take posterior relations, then we come to anterior. Now, what are the posterior relations of both right and left kidney? The posterior relations of right and left kidney will remain same. As the relations of both kidneys will remain same, so posterior relations first will take, I will take the help of this mobile right kidney here. This is the anterior surface, so we go to the posterior surface here. Now, in the posterior surface, the relations will be divided into upper half, lower half. Same way here, if I take this left kidney, anterior surface, posterior surface. In the posterior surface, upper half and lower half. So posteriorly, both the kidneys, same relation. In the upper half, from inside to outside, the first structure will be medial and lateral arcuate ligament of the diaphragm. Then just above that, it will be related to the costodiaphragmatic recess of the respective pleuras, right and left. And above that, it will be related to, now here there is the difference in the posterior surface of right and left kidney. In case of left kidney, this is the left kidney which I am holding, posterior surface. In case of left kidney, uppermost part of the posterior surface will be related to the 11th and 12th rib both. And in case of the right kidney, it will be related only to 12th rib. So these are the relations, posterior surface of both the kidneys in the upper half, inside to outside. Medial and lateral arcuate ligament of the diaphragm. Above that, there will be costodiaphragmatic recess of the right and left pleura. And above that, there will be relations of the 11th and 12th rib on the left side and 12th rib on the right side. Now we come to the posterior surface lower part. Now in the posterior surface lower part here, both the kidneys will have same relations. So those relations will be, we divide the posterior surface lower part into medial, intermediate, lateral. In the medial part, it will be covered by psoas major muscle. This psoas major will be covered by psoas fascia. Intermediate part, it will be covered by the quadratus lumborum muscle, which is covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. And the most lateral part here, it will be related to the transversus abdominis muscle, which is covered by fascia transversalis. And these three muscles will remain the same on both the posterior surface of right and left kidney, and there will be various structures which are related anterior to the intermediate muscle, and that intermediate muscle is quadratus lumborum, which is covered by anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. So in between anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia and quadratus lumborum, there will be various structures which are crossing this surface, and those structures will be the subcostal nerves and vessels, below that iliohypogastric nerve, below that ilioinguinal nerve, and below that the fourth lumbar artery. Here we finish the posterior relations of both the kidneys, right and left. And now we come to the anterior relations of both the kidneys. For that, we will take the help of this specimen. Now, this is very interesting, anterior relations of right and left kidney. So here we take the help of this specimen, both. In the right specimen, we go to the right kidney first, since this is the right, this is the left, this is inferior vena cava, this is the abdominal aorta. And you can also clearly differentiate that right kidney is slightly lower than the left, and the left is slightly narrower, longer than the right. Now we come to the anterior relations. Now in anterior relations, we start with upper pole, then we go to the lower pole of the right kidney. Anterior relations of right kidney, in the upper pole, there will be relation of the right suprarenal gland over here. And this structure, this will be non-peritoneal. So note down, it is non-peritoneal. First relation on the upper pole. Then that is suprarenal area, suprarenal gland will be related here. Second will be here on the hilum. Hilum of the right kidney, there will be relation of the duodenum, second part of duodenum. So it is called duodenal area. And also it will be non-peritoneal. Third relation will be here in the upper half of the anterior surface laterally. Upper half of anterior surface laterally. This area is in relation with the right lobe of liver. So it is called hepatic area. And this hepatic area is peritoneal. So here it is covered by the peritoneum of the greater sac. And it is called hepatic area, because it comes in relation with the right lobe of the liver. And both right lobe of liver and this surface of the kidney, that is right kidney, will be separated by hepatorenal pouch of Morrison. So 3, suprarenal, duodenal, hepatic, and then we come down lower down. In the lower part, here, in the lower pole and medial region, in the medial part and in the lower pole here, this much area is covered by jejunum, coils of jejunum. So it is called jejunal area, and it is peritoneal. So it is covered by the peritoneum lining of greater sac. And over here, in the lower part, lateral surface, the lateral surface, anterior surface, but lateral part. So in the lower part of the kidney, lateral part, anterior surface, this much area will be known as colic area, because right colic flexure is related here, and it is completely non-peritoneal. So on the right kidney anterior surface, there are 2 peritoneal areas. Number 1, hepatic area, which is covered by the peritoneum of greater sac, and number 2, jejunal area, which is again covered by the peritoneum of greater sac. Remaining all the areas are non-peritoneal. Then we go to the left kidney. Now in the left kidney, in the right kidney there were 5 areas, in the left kidney there are 6 areas. So once again we start with the upper pole. Upper pole of the left kidney here related to the suprarenal, left suprarenal gland. Again it is non-peritoneal. Just on the extreme left upper 2/3 border, extreme left upper 2/3 lateral border here, it will be related with that of the splenic area. So therefore that splenic area will be peritoneal, and it is covered by the peritoneal lining of greater sac. In the angle between this suprarenal and splenic, this much is a triangular area, and this triangular area here will be related to, this triangular area will be related to the stomach. So it is called gastric area, and again it is peritoneal area, and it will be covered by the peritoneum of the lesser sac, not greater sac, but lesser sac. So this is a gastric area. Now situated between gastric area and splenic area, a thin strip which will be related to lienorenal ligament, which will provide attachment to lienorenal ligament. In between this triangular shaped gastric area and the upper lateral part splenic area, lienorenal ligament. Then we come to lower part. In the lower part, exactly in the middle, this area, starting from the hilum of the left kidney and extending laterally, this middle part will be related to pancreatic area. And this pancreatic area will be non-peritoneal. Then in the lower 1/3, on the medial part, lower pole medial part here, there will be relation of jejunal area, coils of jejunum, just like right side, same here, left side, coils of jejunum. So that jejunal area will be peritoneal, and it is related with the peritoneum of greater sac. And similarly on the left side, colic area, where it is related with the left colic flexure, again it is non-peritoneal. So in the left kidney anterior surface, sometimes these questions are asked in 1 mark question answer. There are how many peritoneal areas and how many non-peritoneal areas? 3 peritoneal, 3 non-peritoneal. Which are peritoneal areas? The 3 peritoneal areas are: number 1, splenic area, covered by peritoneum of the greater sac; number 2, gastric area, covered by peritoneum of lesser sac; and number 3, jejunal area, which is covered by peritoneum of greater sac. And the remaining areas are non-peritoneal. Similarly, this left kidney is related anteriorly with 3 glands. What are those 3 glands? The 3 glands are suprarenal, left suprarenal, spleen, and pancreas. So here we finish the anterior relations of both the kidneys. So therefore here, this is another discussion of the open cut part of the kidney. So here we have cut the lateral border of the kidney and we have opened it. And in exam, this specimen is also kept where you have to answer the various structures which you are able to see with your naked eye. What are the various internal structures of the cut portion of the kidney? Very simple. Here we go through first medulla. Now in the cut portion of kidney, you are able to see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all these conical pail-shaped structures. These conical pail-shaped structures are known as the pyramids. And these pyramids are nothing but the medulla of the kidney. And here these pyramids will be triangular in shape, in which the base will be towards the cortex and the apex will be directed towards the renal sinus or the hilum. And therefore this apex here will be continuous, or it will be known as the renal papillae. This apex will be known as the renal papillae. So therefore these are pyramids, renal pyramids. And these renal pyramids, they are pail-shaped, conical, striated mass, even striations you are able to see deep inside. And having apex as renal papillae. And therefore, how many renal pyramids are there in one kidney? In one kidney, there will be around 8 to 18 renal pyramids. And each pyramid will contain around 16 to 20 ducts of Bellini. So 16 to 20 ducts of Bellini in each renal pyramid. Please note down. This can be asked in 1 mark question answer. Similarly, now these renal pyramids will have striations. And the striations will be composed of the various loops of Henle, and also it will contain the various ducts of Bellini. And how these ducts of Bellini are formed? Each duct of Bellini is formed by the merging of so many collecting tubules. So many collecting tubules merging and forming a single duct of Bellini. And therefore, there will be around 16 to 20 ducts of Bellini within the renal pyramid, single renal pyramid. And at the papilla, this papilla, there will be opening of cup-shaped minor calyx. And therefore, there will be individual, each minor calyx which will receive 1 to 3 renal papillae. So individual minor calyx will receive 1 to 3 renal papillae. This much is about the medulla. Now we come to the cortex. Cortex is divided into 2 parts. The 2 parts of cortex will be, first, this tissue which are known as renal columns in between the various renal pyramids. So in between the various renal pyramids, these are known as the renal columns. Renal columns will form the first part of the cortex. And these renal columns will contain what structures? They will contain the interlobar blood vessels. Interlobar blood vessels. Similarly, we come to definition of renal lobe. 1 mark question answer. What is renal lobe? One renal pyramid plus the adjoining cortex present over the base of pyramid will be known as one renal lobe. And then we go to the second part of cortex. First was renal columns having interlobar blood vessels. Now, second part of this cortex will be known as these cortical arches. What are cortical arches? The cortical arches is the cortical tissue which is present between outer border, that is lateral border, outer surface, and base of the pyramid. So this much area is known as cortical arches. base of pyramids, between the base of pyramid and the outer surface, this is cortical arch. And these cortical arches will contain, if you see very closely, various medullary rays. There will be various medullary rays which are seen projecting from the surface till the base, and it will pass inside. From the base of pyramid, it will go inside. And these medullary rays, each medullary ray will contain what? It will contain one duct of Bellini, into which there are various collecting tubules which will open. So there are several medullary rays, and each medullary ray will contain duct of Bellini. Now, there is another definition which is known as renal lobule. Now, in between these medullary rays, there will be various interlobular vessels. So therefore now, the two interlobular vessels with, in the middle, renal medullary ray, plus the area of cortical arch is known as renal lobule. Once again, I'll explain it to you. What is renal lobule? How do you define renal lobule? One mark. It is defined as the area of cortical arch which contains in the center medullary ray, and on either side of medullary ray, interlobular vessels. That one pura, the entire, is known as the renal lobule. And there are so many renal lobules present here because there are so many medullary rays, and in between the medullary rays there will be so many interlobular blood vessels. Then we come across to this empty space here. Now this is a cavity-like structure which is present in the hilum. Once you go from the renal papilla to the minor calyx, we see that this cavity-like structure which will open in the hilum, which will open here in the hilum. So that will be known as renal sinus. So this space will be known as renal sinus. And this renal sinus will receive renal papillae. And therefore, minor calyces will be opening. How many minor calyces will be there in each kidney? There will be around 7 to 13 minor calyces. Please note down the number 7 to 13 minor calyces. And these minor calyces will drain in major calyce. So how many major calyces in each kidney? In each kidney there will be around 2 to 3 major calyces. Therefore, minor calyce and major calyce, they are a part of the excretory tubules along with the renal pelvis, which will continue as ureter. So this is one structure: minor calyce, major calyce, renal pelvis and ureter. Together it will continue. They are parts of the entire renal sinus. So what are the contents of renal sinus? Number one, minor calyces, major calyces, renal pelvis. And second structure, the contents of the renal sinus, second structure, it will contain renal vessels. Third structure, it will contain lymph as well as the various nerves. And along with that, there will be perirenal fat. These are the contents of renal sinus. Here we finish the kidneys. Thank you very much.